fight for our country is here and now with Rob, Justin, and Jason on Long Live America.
You better stand up, white man, black man, Hispanic, Christian, Jew, American. You won't be around much longer if Islam has their way with you. And at times I wonder, was I the only guy screaming, revenge, when I saw the Twin Towers go down? Because maybe so. They've issued jihad against us. Am I the only one who wants my own jihad against the enemy who daily seeks my demise for absolutely no wrongdoing? Because I'm a fair and rational person. Wouldn't that be the fair thing to do? Am I the only one who doesn't want to see my mother stuck in a burqa, my sister sold as a child bride or a sex slave? You know what? Nearly 10 years have passed since 9/11, and there's absolutely no abatement in my rage. It's nearly 10 years later, and through silvered eyes, still all I see is red when I watch the World Trade Center go down. 9/11 will never be forgotten and never be forgiven, and people like me will make sure it is forever remembered as the cowardly attack that it was by the pathetic third world wretches that committed it, Muslims. 10 years later, nothing has changed, no matter how much our traitor liberal media tells you Islam is a religion of peace. This came from the San Diego Union Tribune.
I love this one.
So the TSA has opened an investigation targeting John Tyner, the Oceanside man who left Lindbergh Field under duress on Saturday morning after refusing to undertake a full body scan. Tyner recorded the half-hour-long encounter on his cell phone and later posted it to his personal blog, along with an extensive account of the incident. And the blog went viral, attracting hundreds of thousands of readers and thousands of comments. So Michael J. Aguilar, who's chief of the TSA office in San Diego, called a news conference at the airport Monday afternoon to announce the probe. He said the investigation could lead to prosecution and civil penalties of up to $11,000. Can I opt for an opposite-sex search? Can I pick a woman to search me?
I do every time.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. So hey, Justin, Jason, Rob,
burly woman in.
What is it? Yeah. Either walk through the microwave or get your sack knocked around, your pickle tickled by security. Wonderful options they put out there.
Good diction.
And you know what? I think my favorite component of this is while the blonde-haired and blue-eyed family is getting a prostate exam, then they're waving on Akhnat and Muhammad on through. Oh yeah, go ahead, haul ass, go ahead again.
Not racist.
You guys look great, you know. And do you guys realize how expensive political correctness is? I mean, checking everyone when you obviously don't have to, because at least 95% of all terrorism comes from Muslims. So when you're checking everybody else as you would check everybody the same and homogenizing it. It's literally, it's not only fiscally unsound.
It's not racist, it's profiling.
We need religious profiling at least, if not racial profiling. But religious profiling, I'm sorry, in the age of terrorism, you cannot object to that and be a sane people. So logically, like we're saying, shouldn't at least 95% of your checks be done to Muslims? And I guarantee you, hey, on behalf of Long Live America, if it was whites blowing up things, which is not, and you love to cherry pick Tim McVeigh, that's the one loony among us, and he's gone now. So if it was, we'd be the first to stand against it. But it's not. It's Habib and friends. So get it straight.
All white people get a pat down to rent a U-Haul.
Justin, Jason, and I, here's what we're doing. Next time we fly out somewhere, all Americans should put on a big Holiday Inn turban. You know, like, it wasn't Leslie Nielsen had a naked gun or whatever.
One of henchman.
Yeah. That's right. He didn't have it on, but somebody did. Yeah. So go get your tablecloth, cut it up appropriately. And when you go through the TSA line, you know, tell them that you're violating your Muslim religious freedom. I guarantee you they won't touch you. They're not going to grab a Muslim. They're only grabbing whitey and blackie and Mexicani and everyone else.
No way. A blonde-haired, blue-eyed 3-year-old is perfect for no-fly list.
Exactly right. Do you see them groping that 3-year-old and the poor little girl sitting there crying? Was a little white girl. They said, "Oh yeah, here terrorists." The most picture that made me the most sick, I believe, was last year. Was watching that Muslim make the nun take off her head garment, whatever you call that. Who's checking who? Talk about the pot calling the kettle black, huh? So obviously we need some profiling of some sort there. Government, figure it out, but don't walk through checking the redheaded and blonde-haired people more adamantly than you would be checking Habib and friends, like we already said. It's ridiculous. It's political correctness at its worst, and it's ass backwards. What are you, insane? Acting like, all those white people are just blowing up things. You'd like that, huh? An ideal liberal world. You self-hating psychopath white traitor liberals, you would love that.
Long live America. What's your name? Where are you from? Hello.
Oh, okay, sir. Aside from that monosyllabic grunt, that was a great contribution. Do you have anything else to say?
Thank you.
Why you be ragging on prime time's main man, that judge that want to give us a reparations?
Okay,
why
sir.
Why you gotta be taking my money that your honky free-flowing father took?
Wow.
Oh, sir, the intake of your breath is magnificent. And obviously, thank you for so much for keeping up with our conversation.
You don't be dissing prime time.
Okay, prime time, you're not listening. In fact, we've been talking about illegal aliens, and so...
There is on time. I don't give a damn about them wetbacks.
Oh my God, it sounds like James Earl Jones got drunk and went on a bender or something. Wow, prime time.
Talking about Darth Vader.
Okay, folks, as I mentioned earlier, we have no way of monitoring or filtering calls, so please bear with us. Prime time, where are you at?
I'll be everywhere. Prison. South, baby.
Oh, thanks so much for that prime time. As you can tell, the intellectual capacity of our listeners is quite high. And a grand finale. Thank you so much. It all comes back to my initial inquiry from the very first show. My question for the listeners is, how did the freedom of speech hippie of yesteryear become the full-fledged proponent of censorship and extreme politically correct of today? How did their train of thought go full circle backwards? And answer, because this is how a low 1% minority realized they could dictate to and control a 99% majority. Democrats found out over the years that you do not control people by liberating their speech. You control people and condition thought by limiting and dictating their speech. So these so-called liberals of yesteryear evolved into the communistic progressive despots of today. And hippie, why must you work to constantly side with our enemies and be the perennial traitor, always working against America and all that is wholesome and decent? Simply being anti-establishment for the sake of being anti-establishment is childlike. It's emotionally immature. Progressives are like permanent teenagers emotionally. No decisions based on pragmatic experiences or realistic scenarios. All just fanciful notions and ideology. Always fighting the system, yet you're defiant and obstinate without any meaningful cause, with no true loyalty to anything moral or dignified. You don't have your own set of values. You have anti-values, and only against America. And now that this anti-establishment is the establishment, who have you to fight? The answer is no one. And now suddenly it's cool to be an ultra-conformist.
Rage against nothing.
Exactly. Right? So don't fight the system anymore, hippie, because the system will take care of you, cradle to grave. Just be a lockstep, mindless robot.
Yeah, hippie is the system.
As it turns out, 1984 wasn't so long ago, right, Justin?
Yeah.
It's as if you left signed a suicide pact because your own logic always contradicts and defeats you in the end, either by betraying your own initial group premise, as ultra-freedom liberalism turned 180 degrees and now has become anti-freedom communism, the dead opposite, or by betraying the country as a whole and collapsing it. This is why liberalism fails. It truly stands for nothing and must eventually betray itself by nature of the beast. 99.9% of people sentenced to death. Isn't it funny, Justin, that they always fight for life? They don't sit there and say, give me a sentence. They always wish for life. So just for these psycho liberals to sit there and go, oh, letting them sit in prison, that's the worst punishment. Well, gee, then you're not such a humane person at first if you think that. But second, it's not. Even the psycho killer knows that life is better than death. And that's why they work so hard to preserve their own lives while taking others. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, Rob, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to be Mr. Liberal, and here's my question. If we execute a person, what is the difference between us and the criminal who has committed the horrifying crime of killing another individual?
Oh, well, gee, that's...
Like my tonality on that one?
Yes.
There is such thing as a bad question.
I know.
Thank you.
Do you like my tonality?
Your testicles elevated at least 4.5 inches, but I would say that much like the
I have an Audi, thank you.
much like much like the abortion argument, the murderer committed a heinous and vile act, and while the innocent would not being unborn in this case, but the victim did not, and that would be the primary distinction between the two.
No, and from a comedy standpoint, I'm really sick of hearing people say, why do they have to use sterilized needles? Why do they just use... Because they're mass-produced, that's why. Why are there Braille and ATM machines that are a drive-through? Because they're mass-produced, who cares? Just a needle. Do the most cost-effective way of killing them ever. I think we should have a noose, a bat, something, or leave the guy in the room for 3 weeks without water and food. He'll figure out a way of dying.
Yeah,
he'll Gandhi himself away. I mean, there's got to be something.
Give him an AIDS needle, give him a heroin needle, give him any needle. What does it carry? He's going to die there in a minute.
Hey, there's a room, there's a hammer, there's The View, starring Barbara Walters. He'll figure out a way to get things done.
Laws of America, you're on the air.
Hello, this is Roz Rosenberg again.
Roz, this is, I believe your third call. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing somewhat swell. How are you?
Oh, well, thank you for inquiring. I'm great.
Your cousin Milton just called in.
Oh, yeah.
I know, and I was going to address something about him, or whoever he is. First off, before I get to that, I want to address that prime time. What is he doing talking about us Jews like that, Justin? How do you tolerate such insensitivity? I feel like so buff right now because I just drank a kosher protein shake. And I want to call him out.
No, I'm absolutely flustered that he's futzing with our breasts.
Well, with his grunts and that thing he does, that masculine, I don't know how he does that, but I hear you prime time. That's part one. Part two, Milton trying to steal my thunder. I can't believe what I'm hearing.
Oh, sorry, we might have to make this. This is getting epic at this point. Let's go to another subject. Excuse me. How do you feel about the Federal Reserve?
I don't want to touch on that subject. I think they're good and they're bad.
Well, before we mention it, did you know that the Fed was a collection of private banks, that it was a private entity owned by people, or did you think that it was a government entity?
Well, of course I did. I'm part of the Fed. I'm part of and civil
Wow. Okay, let's see. Roz, how do you feel about the economy in general? Has it affected you at all?
Oh, no, I've been saving up my whole life, and I'm in no dire straits whatsoever.
Well, that's good to know. And Roz, is there anything else you'd like to contribute to the show before we continue?
No, that will conclude the evening for me. Please proceed.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rosenberg.
We will continue with your blessings. You can laugh all you want at the military pathetic liberal disgrace, but you're only mocking better men and women than yourself. And mind you, while you laugh, the rest of the world is bolstering their respective militaries to take you, the laughing fool, over, as well as the rest of us. Patriotism is a conservative value and essential for national survival, the conceptual heart of our nation and sense of identity. Conservatism is what forms a nation. Liberalism cannot form a nation. It can only infect and metastasize from within, spreading like a cancer of the soul, opposing our traditional norms, heritage, identity, and morals. It is always the liberal who plays devil's advocate, consistently disagrees with the moral and traditional established norms, rots the infrastructure from the inside out, tears it down, and eventually gives it away. It's pathetic and logically absurd for liberals to mock patriotism because America, or any nation, literally could not survive without it. A liberal military cannot exist. It's an oxymoron, because a liberal military cannot conquer and cannot fight ferociously. Thus, you can never have an entirely liberal nation over time. It is doomed to fall apart. You will be a conquered people over time. From Long Live America, sincerely, thank you so much to our serving men and women of the military.
Yes, thank
we
you.
love you and live happily in the greatest nation in the world because of you. The land where my fathers died is the land I love, and where we, the children of the forefathers, will live and die, and God willing, our children and their children will live, love, and prosper ever after, provided the Democrats did not have their way with our borders, morals, and individual freedoms. Veterans Day is every day in my mind. Long live America.
I also think it's ridiculous that you're talking about fisting. Give me a break. That's just a stupid little thing that you read in some magazine. There's no...
Oh, no, that's very pertinent. In fact, Kevin Jennings, your Safe Schools Are, Obama handpicked, raised that as a very pertinent issue. And the gay homosexual lobby is ramming these things through teacher trainings, through safety programs, through non-discrimination, anti-bullying practices. These are extremely pertinent to here and now, so we needed to bring that up.
That's asinine. I was a vendor for school districts for 15 years, and that is not going to be brought up in any school board. Come on, give me a break, guys. That's ludicrous.
No, to the students nowadays, it most certainly is brought up. And you go to any health class or safety class, and that's how these things, not to mention teacher trainings, where they're taking local levels to convince teachers, national, state, they operate on local levels to convince teachers that homosexual behavior must be affirmed for schools to be safe, not to mention the hate crimes initiatives, everything that heavily favors homosexuals going on now in public schools. Remember, we're not talking private schools only, public schools, colleges, high schools, and even, unfortunately, like what Kevin Jennings wrote about, the queering of elementary education.
I've been involved with public school districts for 15 years. I've never seen anything like that. I mean, I just, bring up the facts.
Well,
show it, guys.
Are you a teacher? Are you a teacher?
No, I'm not a teacher.
There you go. Thank you.
In 2 states for 15 years.
Actually, I've given you a litany of facts, and for a caller to call in just Nasa going, nuh-uh. Well, which facts did you display? In fact, 0 in that call, if I recall correctly. You might have worked somewhere, but you didn't teach in the classroom. And I have taught in the classroom for 6.5, going on 7 years now, and I can tell you what I've seen. And I've worked for the major school districts in Los Angeles where this is taking place. Yeah, maybe not in Oklahoma or Arizona, or one of those states with far superior politics to California, but oh yes, it is widely abundant.